Hey everybody, this is Aylad, and today I'm going to show you how I'm building the DIY lights for my fish room. To start out with, I have the actual bulbs that I'm going to use. These are GU10 bulbs. That refers to the socket fitting. You can find these in a wide range of brightnesses, color temperatures. These happen to be 6500K. And they're 6-watt bulbs, and I believe the package said they were putting out 400 and something lumens. So they're not super bright, but they're pretty decent. You can buy the sockets for them just as you see it here in bulk on Amazon. I will link in the video below to the specific listings for all the parts I got, but I'll tell you, you probably want to find a similar brand of these because a couple of these actually came completely disassembled, where I had to insert the wires, the contacts, these little rivet type things, the back plate. Like it was completely just piles of loose parts. Most of the sockets were intact, but yeah, it was kind of a frustrating moment when I found that some of them were just loose parts. To power it, I'm actually going to be using this candelabra kit. I'm going to clip this socket off and just use the cord. And then to fasten all the wires together, I've got these soldering tube shrink. I forget what they're called. I'll post those in the video description as well. As far as tools go, I have a wire cutter and stripper. I have a screwdriver for reasons you'll see shortly. And I have the heat gun that's actually going to do the soldering for me. So to get started, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and clip the candelabra socket off of the power cord. I'm going to leave a couple inches because, believe it or not, I actually have a use for the socket itself. Probably not in the fish room. Here we go. But right now, really, that's just, that's more or less trash. I'm going to go ahead and peel back the separate wires. And basically, I want to give myself a little more room than the length of these heat shrink tubes. All right. And then I've got this. Oh, one other thing I want to do, actually, these candelabra cords came with this little click wheel to turn it on and off. I actually don't want that, partly because it's a way for moisture to get into the wiring, and partly just because I'm going to be turning these on and off with a timer rather than a switch. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. These are a really simple mechanism. Once you get it open, you basically just pop that out like that. And I'm going to be saving these switches because they have a lot of DIY applications also. Now the trick when you pull off one of those little click wheel switches is not only that one cord or one wire is missing a section, but also the insulation of the wires has been pierced. That's actually how it makes contact with both sides. So I'm going to have to cut that section out completely, and I'm going to do it just past the pierced insulation on both sides. There we go. I think these wire cutters are just old and dull. But I'm going to get rid of this section, it's trash. And once again, I'm going to be peeling this back. And I'm going to do the same thing on this section. If I was okay with having a shorter cord, I actually could just throw out this piece altogether. But I'm going to need all the length on the power cord I can get. So I'm going to go ahead and be reattaching that. One thing that I figured out is it's actually better to go ahead and slip this tube over it before you strip the wire. It just makes it a lot easier. These are not, forget what you call it. Like there's a ton of little tiny wires that make up the actual cord. And they tend to separate if you try to force this over it without it having the insulation holding it all together. I'm not an electrician, folks. Which brings me to my disclaimer. Kids, don't try this at home without adult supervision. Adults, don't try this at home unless you can at least fool your wives into thinking you know what you're doing. Or husbands. And I am not responsible if you burn your house down or electrocute yourself. Oh, look, I just stripped that one without slipping the tube over it. Oh, well. Darn. All right. Because of the way these sockets are designed, we know that it actually doesn't make any difference which wire goes to which. Because really, I could put the bulb in either way anyway. So that's not a concern. But what I want to do is I want to slip off the pre-cut insulation. I could strip it myself if I had to, just like I did with this other wire. And I want to sort of force the filaments together. I don't know if it really helps to give them a pinch. Like I say, I'm not a professional at this. A pinch or a twist. Oh, well, this part is a bit tricky. And ideally, you want to avoid them like kinking up too much. It's just going to make it harder to get the collar on there. Yeah, which I completely made a mess of that, but oh well. It is what it is. All right, now let's talk about the tube for a minute. You see how there's 3 bands going around the inside. The 2 blue ones are waterproof adhesive. This is one of the reasons why I'm using this, is because it's going to seal up this connection nice and tight against any moisture. Since I'm using this for a fish tank application, that's pretty important. The silver band in the middle is actually low temperature solder. So that's going to cement the electrical connection together. And this heat gun is going to be enough to melt it, especially with the heat turned all the way up. So. All right, I might overdo it a little bit with this. As you look at it, I hope you can see this clearly. You can see that the adhesive melted and sealed that shut. The tube itself keeps the wires physically sort of linked together. And then the solder, you can see, got all runny and spread out, and hopefully got worked down into the filaments of the wire, the strands. That's the word I was looking for. One of the problems that I've had with these, if you can see the light reflecting off some of that copper there, probably I'm overheating the shrink tube, but it actually, some of the wires tend to actually poke out. So I'm going to go back later with electrical tape and wrap that up. Overall, this is pretty good. I recommend, as you do this, that you keep the wires horizontally. If you have some kind of way to clamp it in place, it'd be nice if it were straighter. You see how there's going to be a bow in that now. which I might be able to straighten. Well, yeah, it's going to spring back on me. It's not a huge deal. It might look a little better if you can keep it straighter. But horizontally, and if there is a bow in it like this, it's helpful to keep that kind of at the bottom so that the liquid solder stays flowing toward the center rather than running down the side a little bit. All right, so it's not a perfect job. It's not a professional quality job, but it'll do for now. Let's go ahead and get this other one. Oh crap, do you see what I did? I just made a short one. I forgot this one completely. That sucks. That's what I get for trying to make a video and think at the same time. Whatever. I'll make do. I've got several places I can use these with. Actually, the sockets came in a 10-pack. The bulbs came in a 6-pack, and I already had a few bulbs left over from a non-fish household project. So I've got plenty of these lights to make, and if this cord is actually too short for where I meant to put it, that's no big deal. I'll just put it somewhere else. All right, so we're going to work these together, hopefully a little more gracefully than we did the last one. Yeah, every dang time. Let me see if I can actually do it in the tube. That might work better anyway. And I really do want them to kind of mesh together rather than just be like lying side by side. Okay, I think that'll do it. And the trick with the second one is always to keep the first one out of harm's way. And the heat gun is now plugged in on the wrong side. I'm a professional, guys. There we go. Let's see if I can work the tube down. There we go. Just like that. All right. All right, let's see how we did on this one. Yeah, there's still a couple places where the little plastic tube looks thin. So once again, I'm going to have to break out the electrical tape. I'm going to show you that real quick. All right, so a little electrical tape. Won't take much, really. Mostly just right around the solder part, unless you see stray wires getting poked out somewhere else. And even with this, like, this looks much neater and is more waterproof than a lot of other ways to splice wires together. All right, and then insert the bulb. Yeah. Now, I will say that with these ceramic sockets, especially the cheap ones, after you do that once or twice, there might be a little bit of dust or grit. I don't actually see it this time. But be sure you've got a solid lock, and then after doing it a couple of times, just kind of shake or blow it out in case there's anything down in there. So let's go plug it in. We'll see how it works. Alright, so we've got a 55-gallon tank in progress right here. There's going to be a whole separate video on getting it set up. I've got the light unit that we just worked on, as well as one that I had done previously. And they're just kind of held in place on the metal frame of my tank stand with these metal magnet clips. These are super useful for controlling cords and airlines and stuff like that. I use them all over the place. And I'm going to switch on the lights and we'll see how they shine. Alright. That's pretty good, actually. This is a very temporary mounting situation. I'm going to work up something more permanent involving a brace going along under the shelf above. And I've still got to figure that out, because actually these bulbs get really hot. Like a lot hotter than I expected. Painful to touch even. So I'll have to be kind of thoughtful about that. I don't want to risk, you know, singeing anything. But that's pretty much it. Like, simple, easy peasy. Once you kind of get the hang of it, and if you're not trying to record and talk at the same time, you can knock one of these out in about 5 or 10 minutes. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this has taught you something. Again, disclaimers: if you burn the house down, if you burn down your fish room, if you electrocute your fish or yourself or your kid, that's not my problem. It's not my fault. I'm telling you, don't do this unless you know what you're doing. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for checking this out. Hope to see you back in the next one. Bye.